I'm Daniel, the past life regressionist, and it's time to begin.
Lift off and the clock has started.
This is Timeless Spirituality. Enjoy, you chill with your time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Time of Spirituality. Just wanted to remind you guys that I have a workshop coming up on July 16th that I am co-hosting with my buddy Christian Bradley West. You guys also know him as the Country Clairvoyant, and it is a workshop where we are going to be talking about the lunar nodes in astrology and the relationship to past lives and what the upcoming nodal shift means for you potentially in your chart. And we're going to do a group regression in there too. So I'm going to include the description in the show notes. So we hope to see you guys there. With regards to today's episode, I just want to put a little PSA right up at the beginning for you guys. This is an episode that was recorded 10 months ago. And it's one that I've been sitting on for a while because I wanted to make sure that it was handled in the most responsible way possible. Now, it's not necessarily a controversial subject matter, but I personally believe that if you come into this too wide-eyed and too eager in a sense, that there is the potential that it could get some individuals into a sticky situation. Now, that's not everyone, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing right by everyone. So with that, a few weeks ago, I talked with my guest Melissa, and we chatted about this because I wanted to get her opinion on it. And since this, I don't think a movement is the right word to use to describe this, but there's a notion or an idea that some people are really on board with, an idea that I believe is potentially true. Then again, maybe not. But I am open to the possibility of this idea or group or movement or notion being true. But with that, it's always important to use discernment. And that's something that Melissa was very clear with me about when we chatted about this recently. And that if you decide to look more into this, just know that other people are sources of information, but it may not be concrete. It may just be opinions. It may be facts. But go into it using discernment. And you have the permission to go slow with this process. Use discernment. As Melissa says, slow the process down. Take a look at it and slow the process down because it'll be more authentic if you slow the process down. And she also says, just think of it being a race. Pace yourself. Keep an eye out for ego-filled teachers. Even slow down to the point of frustration. I like when she brought that one up. I thought that was really cool. Because she also says if you slow the process down, it's more sustainable. And most importantly, don't fork over big cash to the loudest voices. So not only with this concept, but all concepts in general, use discernment. Slow the process down. It's not a race. And one last thing. At a certain point in the episode, I mentioned demographic breakdowns, and it's been a while since I've listened to this one, so I can't fully remember what I said, but it was, I think, something along the lines of, I can see when people are tuning in my demographic breakdowns. Now, what I meant by that is not specific individuals. It just shows me when the average time people are dropping off in an episode. So I just wanted everyone to know that I don't know who you are and when you're listening and when you're not listening and tuning in. It's just numbers, so I just wanted you to know your privacy is still intact. So with all that said, if you would like to book a regression with me to discover who, when, and where you have been throughout time, you can reach me on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist or my website, thepastliferegressionist.com. And now, it's time to begin. Melissa, thanks so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
You too.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's going to be a different one today, which would be cool.
Yeah.
I like different.
Mhm.
You ready for the first question?
Yes.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun. What is your favorite song about time and why?
Okay. I have kind of a 90s deep cut for you on this one. I know you like a throwback. So, my favorite song about time is Pretty Good Year by Tori Amos, which is a B-side that she didn't release on anything until kind of later. But what I love about the song is I have a tendency toward nostalgia and romanticizing the past in my life. I'm an Enneagram 4 and I'm a Pisces. So I'm really good at like kind of dreamy romanticization. And the song is about kind of all of these really challenging or confusing or difficult things that happen. And then you get to the end of that cycle and you go, you know what? It was still a pretty good year. And I love that energy. So I love beginnings and endings. My favorite holiday is New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So it's a song that I have historically played at the end of the year just to kind of reflect back and go, you know what? A lot of shit happened, but it was still a pretty good year.
Yeah, it sounds pretty Pisces to me.
Yeah, it's very Pisces energy.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Okay. Are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Who is Melissa?
The hardest question to answer, right? So, personally and professionally, I identify as a healer. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a yoga teacher. I do some pastoring in progressive and spiritual spaces, especially around deconstruction and faith transition. I also identify as a Magdalene priestess spiritually, part of that lineage. So yeah, I believe that I'm here as part of a healing energy on the earth. And then for fun, I like to do a lot of things. I like to dance, I like to box. I'm a writer. I love to travel. I have a really beautiful community of people around me. They definitely shape who I am. So yeah, that's me. And I'm in the middle of what I'm calling a year of freedom. So we can talk about that if you want to.
Sure. Let's talk about the year of freedom if you're up for it.
Sure.
What's your year of freedom?
So, like a lot of people, I've been through a lot of shit in the last couple of years. Specifically in January, my life kind of exploded. So, January 2022, my now ex husband came home and threatened people I love. It was very violent, and my marriage ended in the course of about 4 hours. That set off a chain reaction of events that changed everything in my life. So, in the wake of that, I came out as bisexual. And at that time, I was on the ordination path in a mainline Protestant church that doesn't ordain LGBTQ folks. So I had to bail on that process. I thought I was going to have a big career transition that didn't happen. I finished a second graduate degree, kind of all in the course of 6 months. So I went from having a life that I thought was going to look one kind of way over the course of about 5 or 6 months. It looked completely different. And I woke up the morning of June 3rd, realizing that I was no longer beholden to anyone or anything. So I'm self employed, I'm single, I don't have a lot of responsibilities, I don't have kids. And so I declared a year, which is a year of basically not giving, am I allowed to cuss?
Shit.
Not giving a fuck about what anybody thinks or has to say about what I do. So I'm waking up every day and choosing myself and saying yes to myself. I'm embracing spontaneity and joy and travel, and I'll turn 40 in this year. I'm embracing a new decade of life. So, yeah, it's a year of just complete freedom that is only for me and my healing process.
Did you ever watch Seinfeld?
I watched a little bit of it.
Did you ever see the episode The Summer of George?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought of when you brought that up.
Yeah, I'm in my
Declaring
George
it
Costanza era.
The Summer of George. Although I think his Summer of George is a little bit different than yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's just George Costanza for you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
Before we dive into your past life experience, I'm curious to expand upon something you brought up there. I believe you referred yourself as a Magdalenian priestess?
Magdalene priestess. Yeah.
Magdalene priestess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can understand that a little bit after your session.
Yeah.
But I don't remember you identifying as that before the session. Is that?
That was an identity that I was playing with when we had the session. I think actually our session helped me kind of solidify that and understanding what my past life connection is to Mary Magdalene. So Magdalene priestesses hold the lineage and the tradition of the teachings of Mary Magdalene. So Mary Magdalene was a really important figure in the work of Christ in teaching people about the true nature of God and self and the goodness of the divine. And so Magdalene priestesses are these wisdom bearers, these wisdom holders that basically their work is teaching people that their nature is not sin. Their nature is good. Their nature is love. All that is good and loving and beautiful in the universe exists within us. So a big part of this last year, as my life is kind of deconstructed and blown up, I've been reconstructing my spirituality as well. And so realizing that this is kind of always the energy that I brought to my spiritual practice and my teaching has allowed me to own the identity of a Magdalene priestess. And I'm starting to find a community of other Magdalene priestesses on social media that we're out there. So we're starting to find each other, which is really exciting.
Is it okay if we talk about your second degree a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
Because I don't think you mentioned what it was, which I think is because there's some irony in that. You want to mention what your second degree is?
Absolutely. So my first master's degree is in counseling. Obviously, that's how I became a therapist. And my second master's degree is a Master of Divinity. So it's a theology degree from a progressive Christian seminary, which is sort of ironic because I don't identify as Christian. I did not even when I was in school or first making that decision. I was fortunate enough to go to a seminary that welcomes people of all faith traditions. So I had classmates who were Wiccan and pagan and atheist and Unitarian Universalist, and I learned a lot from all of those folks. But yeah, I have a Master of Divinity, which I like to say, once you master it, you don't have to practice anymore. So I mastered divinity.
That's yeah. I'm curious. Sorry, that kind of yeah. So, are any of your beliefs in conflict with what was taught during that program? I mean, your current beliefs.
I would not say in conflict. So, the thing about a progressive seminary as opposed to a very conservative or traditional seminary is that they leave a lot of room for exploration. They're going to teach you kind of the structure of theological education and theological exploration, but there's very little dogma. So I was given a lot of room to explore and play in theological and spiritual spaces at the school that I went to. And I should probably say what the school is because it's a really great program and people should check it out if they're interested. I went to ILIF School of Theology in Denver. They've got a great program that I would highly recommend. I connected with some people there who are very open to the idea of spiritual and religious multiplicity, which is a concept that I had never heard of before and resonated with me in a really big way because I've never fit easily into one spiritual box, probably like a lot of people who listen to your podcast. Mm-hmm. So I had one professor in particular who you might remember showed up in my regression, who I've known in a past life, who gave me a lot of room and support around exploring a variety of mystical traditions, including traditions that hold space for the divine feminine. And so that became incredibly important to me, was understanding the place of the divine feminine, both in history and in our current time as people are kind of awakening to some new things. So, no conflict really. There were some people I didn't totally agree with or see eye to eye with, but that was supported more than it was discouraged.
And if I remember correctly, I know we'll get to it later, but the teacher was the rascal, right?
Yeah. Okay. He was a pain in my ass in a past life.
And just giving everything away on this one. I'm not building any suspense.
Spoilers.
All right. So let's start pivoting in that direction. Or are you ready for the next question?
Absolutely.
Why is it you wanted to have a past life regression?
So I have been interested in past lives for probably about a decade. About 10 years ago, probably 2012, early part of 2013, I had a past life reading. So not a regression, but a reading with an astrologer who gave me some really compelling information about kind of where I had been in history and specifically spiritually. She was the first person to ever use the word priestess for me to help me kind of understand what my spiritual lineage was. And around that same time, I had a couple of spontaneous past life memories, or at least that's the only thing that I could call them. They were very clear memories that were not of this current lifetime. So I kind of held that interest or that curiosity at arm's distance for a long time. If you're moving in Christian faith spaces, that's not really, they talk about a whole lot. So I didn't have a lot of people to talk about it with, although I did in my yoga community. So there was a little bit of conversation and support around it. In January of this year, around the time that my life was blowing up, I started having these really profound visions from Mary Magdalene herself. So I would sit in meditation, and every day she would give me about a 10 or 15 minutes sort of movie clip of her life after Jesus died and what happened to her, where she went, how she was affected by the patriarchal systems of the time, how her life ended, her children. And it was this profound experience of kind of being called into a deeper sort of spiritual connection to the past. So a few months after that, I had a past life regression with a different regressionist. Please don't be jealous, but different regressionist. That was a really cool experience, and introduced me to some of my current spirit guides who are helping me move through this time of transition that I'm in. And again, kind of showed me what lessons I'm being called to learn in this weird transition, this year of freedom that I'm in. But it was a really short regression, and it kind of was like an appetizer. It was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to explore here. So I had been listening to your podcast for a little bit, and just felt like a lot of the way that you talk about and think about time was relevant to some of the questions I was asking. And I specifically wanted to understand, what is about Mary Magdalene? Why do I feel so compelled by her? Why was she coming to me and giving me these visions every day for like 6 weeks? So yeah, that was kind of the question I was stepping into, as well as, how do I let go of some of the past things that I've experienced so that I can move forward with more freedom in this year.
I don't remember you bringing any of that up in the pre-session, though. Right? No, I don't think any of that came up during the pre-session.
Yeah, but I think that was the intention I was coming in with. Maybe it was an unspoken intention.
Yeah, none of that came up during the pre-session. Which, I don't know if that makes a difference whether or not it came up during the pre-session.
Yeah.
Because still, I'm not the arbiter of what's the right way or the wrong way to go about these things. But
yeah,
I feel that when it did come up in the session, there was almost a level of comfort to me that we didn't focus on it during the pre-session. That there were many other things that took priority during the pre-session. So when that came up, I'm like, all right, okay, I can dig it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there were some things. It's interesting. I think I had an intuitive sense that there were some things that didn't need to be spoken. That I, from my first regression, which was in April of this year, I met you a few months later. Like I said, I'd made a big connection with some spirit guides that are moving with me through life right now. So I've been in a lot of conversation with them leading up to that experience. And I think I went into my regression with just like this huge sense of trust. Like, y'all are just going to show me what I need to see, because that's your job. I don't think you're going to let me down on that. So yeah, I think there was a lot that I didn't feel the need to say, because I knew it was just going to be whatever experience I needed it to be.
I'm cool with that.
Sorry, I didn't tell you.
Oh, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's still one more little teaser for what we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
I pretty much figured it out even before you said. There was only one thing you needed to say, and then there was that feeling that came along with it. I'm like, okay, we're about to see Mary Magdalene right now. Well, it was either Mary Magdalene or Mother Mary. That was my feeling that I was getting. And it was one of the Marys.
Yeah, they're out there. They're around.
Yeah, so sometimes I don't need to know everything. Although, for everyone listening, if you want to do a session with me, the overwhelming majority of the time, it's very helpful if you do tell me everything, so I have everything going into it. But this one worked out, so it was okay.
Yeah. Well, you also remember, I do a lot of spirit guide work. I don't know if you remember me saying, like, your spirit guides are here too. I had a sense as soon as you walked in the door that my guides were talking to your guides, and like they were taking care of it. Like they were kind of moving ahead of us. Like, oh, we got this. We already set the agenda.
So still, for everyone listening, I believe it works that way, but let's not rely on the other side all the time. But it worked out this time. Everything was fine this time, but I just, like I want everyone to be able to get the most out of it. And also with regards to the Mary Magdalene issue anyways, I usually stay away from this stuff on the podcast. However, the reason that I'm comfortable having you on to talk about it is because I feel you're coming from a very grounded place.
Yeah.
It wasn't all about that. So, and I believe it's a message that needs to get out there. So, again, I'm not the arbiter of this stuff. I'm just going with my gut. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about most of the time. I think I do, but I don't. So, are you ready to talk about the experience?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Cool. So, what came up for you?
So, the first life that I saw was the one I think we spent the most time on. And it started, I was in ancient Egypt, first century Egypt. And I was a teacher, an instructor of some sort. And the profound, like pervasive sense that I had about my life was that it was boring. I was just so bored. It felt so tedious. And, it almost took us a minute to kind of get some energy going of like, okay, what's happening? Why are we here? What are we supposed to see here? Because that life felt like such drudgery in a way. And in that life, I had heard about this woman who was teaching in southern France, this woman who was teaching these really radical, profound things. And so I left in the middle of the night to get on a boat and snuck away from my family, left all my obligations to take a boat to southern France and study with her. And I had a friend that went with me. And I remember, landing on the shores in the south of France, going to find this woman. And when I found her, she was Mary Magdalene. I became a student of Mary Magdalene and sat at her feet for weeks and weeks and weeks and earned her trust as she was teaching these huge crowds. And all of this happened, in the few years after Jesus's death. She fled, went to the south of France. And there's a tradition, a legend in the south of France that is where she ended up and lived out the rest of her life as a spiritual teacher. And so what I saw was earning her trust and becoming kind of a servant of her, and becoming like an assistant of sorts, I guess.
Yeah,
Is a
it
better
felt
word
like
for it.
a personal assistant.
Yeah, personal assistant. I think
Yeah.
I think was it. I would get her food, and I would kind of like arrange her day, and screen her voicemails, or
Yeah.
whatever assistants
Pick up her
do.
dry cleaning. Yeah, new road needs to be cleaned.
Right, exactly. Um, and then the end of that life was very tragic. I got to see a lot of her sadness and grief. There was not a sense that she was joyful in the work that she was doing. Instead,
Mhm.
it was kind of a prolonged grieving process, having lost Jesus, who in the reality that I saw was her husband or her lover, and then being exiled away from where she was from. And so I held a lot of her sadness in that lifetime. And then the way that life ended was I was attacked and murdered for being associated with her. It was sort of I don't know that the word witch really existed then in the sense that we have it, but sort of that targeting of female spiritual figures who are affronting to the patriarchal systems of the time. And so I was targeted and murdered for my association with her. And that was how my life ended.
It's kind of messed up the way it happened too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was attacked out of nowhere, which is interesting because it was a really profound parallel to the visions that she had given me. This is not something I've seen discussed anywhere else when it comes to Magdalene legend or anything, but part of the vision that she gave me Melissa in this lifetime in the early part of this year when I was seeing visions from her, was that she herself was attacked and fled because she was afraid for her safety. She was attacked by a man or a group of men. And in both lives that I saw, in her life and in my life, the attack came from the left side. So like bum rushed from the left in both her life, and then that's how I was killed in my past life. So it's this really interesting parallel of those two experiences.
Let's talk a bit about the teachings that were taking place there.
Mm-hmm.
So what was going on?
So what she was talking about was very much in line. If you read the Gnostic Gospels, people are interested in that. It's Gnostic, Gnostic Gospels, which are the non-canonical accounts of Jesus's life and teachings and his disciples that are floating out there. They're considered very subversive because they didn't make it into the Bible. But in the Gnostic,
maybe they did. They're just,
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they did, but they may have just been stripped out or something.
right, because that absolutely happens throughout history. People get edited. Well, one of the reasons that the Gnostic Gospels were not accepted as canon is because they make the disciples look like little shits. I mean, all these like the disciples are all these like teenage boys and young men who were really kind of petulant and shitty. If you read the Gnostic Gospels, and they were super negative toward Mary Magdalene. They questioned her authority. They asked, Jesus, why do you let this woman hang out with us? Why do you give her teachings that you don't give to us? Why are you closer to her than you are to us? They were super jealous. So anything that makes men look bad, men tend to erase or redact. So
Yeah.
they didn't make their way into Christian canon. But in the Gnostic Gospels, Mary Magdalene teaches about a much more mystical, holistic understanding of the cosmos. And one of her primary teachings is there is no sin. There's no such thing as sin. Your nature is not sinful. You don't need to be punished for your sin. You don't need to repent for sin. The only thing you need to do is accept the goodness of your nature, that you are inherently good, you are inherently loved, you are inherently a mystical being, you are inherently one with all the rest of the cosmos around you, and that like just accepting that is liberating. So that's very much what I heard her teaching. And there was in the crowd there was some pushback on that teaching, and people were confused by it, and some people were excited about it. And it's not unlike the way people respond to any other subversive teacher throughout history. Some people are like, yeah, this sounds great. Some people are like, fuck you, this challenges everything I've ever thought. So it was interesting to see how her teaching was received then.
What was some of the pushback?
So the pushback was in part just that she was a woman teaching these things. She, you know, women had so little authority, so little credence was given to what women said. And you could see that in the Bible. There's in scripture that says that the women who saw Jesus resurrected and went to tell people, every single gospel, it says the disciples didn't believe them because they were women, because women didn't have authority. Women couldn't possibly, know what actually happened and tell the truth. So I think on like baseline, that's how she was received, was like, oh, this woman saying this crazy shit that nobody's ever heard before. And then the other pushback to me seemed to be, and I think some of the pushback that's still given to those of us in the Magdalene priestess tradition who preach this stuff, who talk about this stuff, is it's really hard to control people who are liberated enough to believe that their nature is good. That's a really, really confronting place for people. Because if I believe that I'm good and that I don't have to repent for anything, and that I am one with everything, you can't control me. You can't tell me what to do. You can't dictate how I feel about myself and then make me go shit, like beauty products and diets and shit to make me feel better about myself. You can't saddle me with an unhealthy relationship just to participate in a patriarchal, compulsive heterosexual system. Like, there's so much that I won't do if I believe that my nature is good and that I am one with the cosmos. So if you take away that control mechanism, people start to go, whoa, 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 what are we supposed to do with you if you're that liberated? So I think people were pretty freaked out by that message, and still are.
Okay, I mean, I support it.
Same.
So I'm sorry, the name of it again that you associate now with is the Magdalene priestesshood?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Magdalene priestess lineage, yeah.
So can you talk about that? I'm really unfamiliar
Yeah.
with the movement.
Absolutely. So Magdalene priestesses have existed since roughly the lifetime that I saw, first century Roman Empire, Egypt, southern France, throughout Europe, all kind of through the Mediterranean, because of the spreading of Mary Magdalene's message, which was this mystical tradition in, kind of an offshoot of what Jesus taught. And there's some argument that this is actually what Jesus taught, but he only taught it to Mary Magdalene because she was the only one who got it. She was the only one kind of smart enough to understand it, which I personally believe.
Probably.
Yeah. So in first, second, third century Mediterranean, Mary Magdalene was considered an authority, a spiritual authority, who had equal wisdom to what Jesus taught. And there were things like Magdalene cults, and there were early Christians who identified as Magdalene Christians. Like, Mary Magdalene was their teacher of spiritual truth. So a Magdalene priestess is a woman who steps forward in that tradition and says, I want to hold this wisdom. I want to share this wisdom. And it is a voluntary position. You're not conscripted to be a Magdalene priestess. You're not bred to be Magdalene priestess. You hear and learn the teaching and you go, yes, this is my truth to share with people. So Magdalene priestesses have existed in different iterations throughout history. They may not have necessarily used that exact term. It's what we use now, but they are of a lineage that has existed from antiquity all the way through the Middle Ages. You see Mary Magdalene cults, you see Mary Magdalene divine feminine gatherings in the Middle Ages throughout Europe to present day. And now, social media is really helping Magdalene priestesses around the world find each other again.
What would a Magdalene cult look like?
So a Mary Magdalene cult would be, it's a pretty gentle cult. I mean, it's not like they were sacrificing people or anything, but it would be kind of the deifying of Mary Magdalene as an archetype of the divine feminine. So sort of goddess worship by way of Mary Magdalene, kind of coming out like kind of a blend of like pagan tradition and mystic or Gnostic Christian tradition.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Okay. So you're very well versed in matters of psychology.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you a question that I'm hoping it can be answered objectively. Are there issues with the community?
What do you mean? Are there issues with the community? Like the Magdalene priestess community?
Mm-hmm.
There are people in that community, so of course there are issues. I mean, in any community that has humans in it is going to have some issues.
And what do you see some of those issues as?
The same as probably any spiritual community. I started to say any kind of new agey spiritual community, but I think no, I think any spiritual community is more accurate. You know, it's very easy when you start playing with high level spiritual concepts and one's own authority around those concepts for people's ego to get involved.
Mm-hmm. P.S. Just for everyone listening, Melissa's done the work. So
Melissa's doing the work. She's not done with it yet.
Melissa's been doing the work and still doing the work.
Yes, that's accurate. We all have.
Sorry for cutting you off there.
I mean, that's something I have to check in with is my own ego. I mean, I'm a teacher. I stand in front of people week after week in yoga spaces or when I give talks and that kind of stuff. I have to check my ego every single time I walk in a room because it is the most human thing in the world to feel like one has access to high level truth and go, oh, that makes me special. And that's not how that works. It's not that I am special. The truth is special. And I get to be a vessel for that. And that is a special experience. But that doesn't put specialness on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I see a lot of that, you know, the Magdalene priestess community is adjacent to things like obviously new age spirituality, witch talk. You know, I spend a lot of time on TikTok, witch talk, that kind of stuff. The manifesting community, the spiritual coaches, all of whom I think have a lot to offer in their teaching and awakening people. But there is so much ego in those communities. You know, the second you step in front of a camera and have eyes on you, the ego wakes up and goes, well, this feels good. I'm really into this feeling. I want more of this. Let me find the content that's going to get more eyes on me or more affirmation or more people telling me that I'm special. So that's something we have to constantly check in with as any sort of lineage or wisdom holders is it's not about me. It's about the message. I am a transmitter. I'm a vehicle for the message.
How does it feel to talk about that out loud?
To me, it feels great. I mean, I think it's something I need to say out loud consistently to remind myself of that. I mean, I'm teaching a yoga class tonight. I've got, you know, I'm going to have 25 people in a room looking at me going, this was a great yoga class. And it would be so easy for me to pick that up and go like, I'm a great yoga teacher, you know, but.
Oh, you mean that's not what you're supposed to do?
No, not if you're doing the work.
I thought I was doing the work.
You know, it's okay. Like we all need affirmation. We're human, right? Like everyone needs a little bit of affirmation, a little bit of a reminder of their own goodness. That's part of the Magdalene lineage is reminding people of their goodness. Mm-hmm. But we have to hold that in the right box. We have to hold that in the right basket of like, my goodness is not the same as specialness. My goodness is not the same as betterness than anyone else. And that's the risk. There's such a fine line between those two when the ego starts playing around.
Yeah. Still working on that one.
Because you're human and none of us are done yet. I mean, ultimately, the work of a Magdalene priestess, as hopefully any spiritual practitioner, any spiritual lineage holder, is to help people awaken, is to help everyone awaken, help the earth awaken so that we can all like go to the next level, whatever that is. My ego is a very inefficient tool for helping people awaken. It's probably not going to get the job done. So I have to be willing to put that aside, no matter how cool the message is that I have.
It's a cool message.
I think so.
I mean, I think, frankly, I'm a little taken off guard right now because I spent so much time with you the day of your session. and none of this came up. I mean, the Magdalene stuff came up during the regression, but that was
Yeah.
the extent of it. I mean, we touched on it a little bit afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just kind of taken back because I'm like, this is the person who I met, but this isn't the person who I met. But there's also that feeling of feeling okay about this right now because you weren't bringing this up.
So sorry to catch you off guard. I feel like
No, it's okay. It's because I wasn't expecting this for today, which is fine. I mean, look, I can improvise. But I would have been more concerned had you been bringing all this up in the pre-session because
Right.
I may have saw it as an over-identification. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have taken you seriously because I believe that there is validity to whatever someone is experiencing. But you didn't identify with this stuff beforehand.
I think I did. I think I did.
Well, I mean, actually, can
Yeah.
I jump in there really quick in terms
Yeah.
of when I will have people say to me during a pre-session, I'm an Arcturian Palladian priestess of the 74th dimension, and
Right.
that's all that matters.
Right.
Well, let me tell you why I'm gonna
Yeah.
challenge you on that one.
Yeah.
But you didn't. So that's
Yeah.
what I mean about at least the identification that I didn't see, which
Mhm.
is okay. I mean, so again, I'm not the arbiter of these things, but there are certain connections that I have to what I believe even maybe archetypes throughout
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And maybe not the deities necessarily, but where I believe that, look, in this case, I do believe that you were that person. I do.
Yeah.
But I can never rule out the possibility, which I think we even talked about,
Yeah.
that it's an archetypal message that's coming through
Yeah.
in something that's more tangible for us to understand. But I still believe that you were that person. You know, you were the personal assistant of Mary Magdalene at one point in her life.
Yeah.
So I just hope that everyone listening, if you do have these gifts and these qualities and these lineages, that you don't over-identify with them, which
Yeah.
to me, Melissa's not, which is why I'm comfortable saying this publicly in front of her and in front of other people.
Well, thank you for that. You know, what occurs to me as you say that is my intention when I receive spiritual work of any sort is to be a receiver.
Mhm.
You know, I don't ever want to come in like I'm a Magdalene priestess and I know all this shit and you can't tell me anything. Like, so there may be pieces of myself that I check at the door before I receive that allows me to kind of be a little bit more of not a blank slate per se, but a little bit more of a beginner's mind in what I'm receiving. You know, I think if I had I have been playing with the idea of Magdalene priestesshood for about a year, but it didn't feel relevant to the session. It didn't feel like I needed, for me, that is a role, a title that I claim when I need to speak from a place of authority, not from ego, but authority. And I wasn't the authority in the room that day. So it wasn't a relevant title for me to claim as a receiver. I was just a soul that was curious about where I'd been before.
I'm curious with that. How do you feel that title gives you authority?
So, I mean, just in the words themselves, I mean, Mary Magdalene herself has a certain authority that any Magdalene priestess gets to not claim for herself, but stand in the shadow of and be a transmitter of. Again, it's not my authority, it's her authority. And then the word priestess has certain connotations for people. I mean, a priestess is someone who is a teacher, a ritual creator. You know, all these associations come up when we use those words. And so using those words for myself sets an intention of like, this is what I'm here to do. You know, this is a shorthand for the type of experience, the type of interaction I am planning on having today with you or with an audience or whoever it is.
So when you talk about using those words, are you saying that it's an internal thing or it's something you're saying externally?
Both, for sure. I mean, it is affirmation for me internally, but like that's the energy I'm bringing. I'm a Magdalene priestess 24/7, but I am embodying Magdalene priestesshood for myself. And so I get to feel the empowerment of that when I use those words for myself. But also so people know the space that I'm coming from. I'm not just Melissa who like happens to read some stuff and like likes to talk about this stuff. Like there is a role that I'm here to play.
What role do you think I'm here to play?
What role are you here to play?
Mm-hmm.
What do I think, or what are your spirit guides telling me right now?
Well, I mean, maybe they're one and the same if they're speaking up right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of the same, I think. I think you have unique gifts around gently challenging people.
Mm-hmm.
Within communities that are focused on awakening and elevating consciousness and that kind of thing, there's a lot of feel good. There's a lot of like, patting people on the head, like, oh, you're such an awakened being, or like warm fuzzies, or, oh, let's just all sit around and feel good about like how enlightened we are. And that's fine sometimes. But I think you are uniquely gifted around challenging people in a way that is a little bit playful enough that they can receive it,
Mm-hmm.
but also asks those really hard questions and creates a little bit of discomfort and a little bit of friction for people to help them grow. So if we kind of zoom the lens out of like, we're all kind of here to do a little bit of awakening for people, I think that's the goal, is to like create a little friction for people and move them in a direction they need to go, and not just make them feel good.
Well, I appreciate that. There was something I believe that you mentioned along those lines with the message that Mary Magdalene was preaching, in a sense, right? About challenging,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, am I any less of an authority?
Then Mary Magdalene?
Maybe not Mary Magdalene, but because I am choosing not to attach myself to any titles.
Do you not have a title when you call yourself the past life regressionist?
That's just what I do.
Well, Magdalene Priestess is what I do. It's just a fact. I mean, there's a way to look at this stuff as like, again, we have to check our egos, right? There's a way to look at these titles as like special or distinguishing us in some way. And there's a way to look at them as fact.
Mm-hmm.
Magdalene Priestess is a fact about me. It's not, I have a special connection to Mary Magdalene. It is a job title, ultimately. It is an identity, in as much as being a therapist is a job title for me, or as much as being a yoga teacher is a job title for me. I mean, I'm claiming authority when I say I'm a yoga teacher and I walk into that room, in that space. I'm a yoga teacher 24/7, but I'm not teaching yoga 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
But when I walk into that room, I need to claim that title in order to be effective at what I do,
Mm-hmm.
in order to have the authority I need in that room. And I think it's the same thing for you. I mean, you both are and aren't a past life regressionist 24/7. It's part of your identity. And it is a claiming of authority in that, saying like, I have this skill set. I am able to create this experience for people. I have this education. I have this knowledge. So I think it's kind of the same thing.
I'm just going to throw a hypothetical out there right now. Let's say I was there back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I walked with Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
Should I be talking about that more? If I was, I'm not saying that I was,
Yeah.
but if I was, should I be identifying with that more and have, since I do have this platform,
Mm-hmm.
should I be bringing something like that up more?
I think that's between you and your guides and source.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are spiritual experiences that I've had that I don't talk about, because they're for me. I've had them. I mean, I saw the face of God in meditation once. That's not my message to share. It was super cool, made my life better, but sorry, I'm not going to talk about that today, because it's not my primary call.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about the Magdalene lineage, it is one of my primary calls in this life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't dictate or determine that for you. If you did have an experience with Mary Magdalene in the past life, are you called to speak about it, or is it just like a really cool thing about yourself? Mm-hmm.
Well, so I'm not saying that happened, but if it was, it'd be something I believe about
Right.
myself. And
Yeah.
I mean, but it's a question that I do ask myself if I'm not coming through as strongly on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's put it this way. There have been times, even on the podcast, where I've had people come on and share their stories about something. But what they don't know is that I was there too. At least I believe that I was there. And so I'm playing stupid a lot of the time, or, but then it's the intricacies of it where I don't know if the stage was set for me a couple years prior to whenever that session was, so I would have an understanding of how to help that person better.
Right.
Because I may have had more of a somewhat firsthand experience through the regressive space.
Yeah.
And just wondering, I can't put my finger on the intricacies of it all.
Yeah.
And so that's, but I mean, I'm asking this as a genuine line of inquiry because there's such valid things you're bringing up when it comes to checking ego at the door. And where does the divergence between ego and authority come into play?
Oh, I love that question. So I want to back up a little bit and address the first part of what you said, because I can draw from my therapist experience, my experience as a mental health therapist, to answer that question. So I live in Birmingham, Alabama. This is not a big city. That's especially, I'm bisexual. The LGBTQ community is very small. A lot of my clients are LGBTQ identified. So it is very common for me to have an experience where one of my clients is speaking about people or something that happened or an organization, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know them, because it's Mayberry. We all know each other. They don't know that I know the context or I know that person, or I've had experiences with people talking about people I dated. The question in that moment becomes, how much information is important for me to share with the client for the client's benefit?
Mm-hmm.
There is a place where I could talk about that where it's for my benefit, of like, oh yeah, I know them, or I whatever, like I was involved and I was on the board of that organization. Like there's a place where it would be pumping up my own ego.
Mm-hmm.
And then all we're doing is pumping up my ego, and I'm wasting the client's time and money and energy. That serves no purpose whatsoever. I have had experiences as a therapist where, and there's only a small handful, where it was to the client's benefit for me to share a little bit of the behind the scenes knowledge that I had about an organization or a group of people or something, to give them insight that would liberate them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So, somebody getting involved, like me sharing, like, what I know about that group is like, they've had a lot of conflict and a lot of toxicity. And what's happening right now probably isn't about you. And they get a sense of relief and they get a sense of perspective. So I kind of see your question about, should I tell them that I was there too, as sort of a spiritual version of that? Like, do they need to know that you also knew Joan of Arc or whatever? Would that liberate them in some way, or would that just be putting?
It's a future episode.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Or would that be just turning the attention on you for no greater purpose than the attention on you for a minute?
Mm-hmm. Which is something that I believe that I struggled with earlier as a past life regressionist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a matter of sharing things for that reason. Also not going overboard, which I always kept myself in check in that respect. But I see also what you're saying about the other times where I have brought it up in the more recent past. When I say more recent, I mean the last 2 or 3 years, as just a way, I don't want to say to be over or relatable for that person, but that sense of they need someone right now. They need to understand that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that's my feeling on it. And so I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Self-disclosure is such a complicated thing when when we're in the role of like providing support or providing service to someone, because that is a human need to feel understood and seen and that kind of thing, and I'll, in my work, I do a lot of work with eating disorders in my clinical practice. And many of my clients with eating disorders know that I am in long-term recovery from an eating disorder myself. I'm in 15 years this year that I've been in recovery. And I only share that if it serves a purpose for the clients. Number one, to know that I'm there in the trenches with them. I've been there, struggled in the ways that they struggle. And number two, to help them see that there is hope. A lot of my clients can't imagine 15 weeks of recovery, let alone 15 years. Mm-hmm. So for them to look at me and go like, oh, well, she's been doing this for a decade and a half. Maybe I could do that. Maybe I could be recovered one day. That's the only purpose. That's the only reason I would ever share with someone. Mm-hmm. If I'm like, oh yeah, me too, just because I want to be involved, like nothing's happening.
Yeah. And I think it's such a difficult line to toe out there publicly because, you brought up something so important earlier about what happens when you have eyeballs on you, AKA what happens when you have ears on you.
Yeah.
And for the podcast, I can look at the demographic breakdowns. I can look at my retention rates. I can see when people are turning off the podcast or when there's an amazing retention. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying, go back and listen to those moments when you were losing people, when they were turning it off. So I don't need to go back and look. I know the moments where I was losing them. I know exactly what I was saying. And she says, well, you need to do less of that. I'm like, no. I don't. Because this isn't about the ego boost.
Yeah.
This is about the long game that I'm playing, because I'm setting the stage for something that may transpire years down the road, where if I lose a people because they have an issue with that, well, fuck them.
Yes.
So I'm going to lose a couple people with that comment, but whatever. It's,
Bye.
Right. C'est la vie.
Right.
So I wonder about that. If I were to bring more of the, again, I just also want to make it clear for everyone, this is not me trying to say this is what Melissa's doing. Because I would not be having this conversation with her right now if I thought so. I'm having this conversation because I think she's the perfect person for me to have this conversation with. And because it's not just about us right now, I believe that there are people listening who need to hear this as well. And, thinking about, oh, well, I could talk about that thing. And, oh, my God, I'd have so many more people listening if I talked about that.
Right.
But for what?
Yeah.
But that's what I have to ask myself is, because what I see happening, let's just say with the past life regressionists, which there's someone else I think who should be one.
Working on it.
I see past life regressionists presenting themselves as authorities on certain things.
Yeah.
Where I don't believe they should be presenting themselves as authorities on that, because I think it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't think longevity equates to authority necessarily.
Correct.
But I do believe experience does have its merits.
Mm-hmm.
And I see these past life regressionists taking off in terms of their numbers. Mm-hmm. Starting is much lower than mine, but then eclipsing me overnight. Yeah. Because I believe it's a matter of ego. Yeah. And while my ego is out of control in many respects, I own it. There are other places I wonder where if I let my ego really run loose, what would my world look like? Yeah. Would I have a bigger platform to speak to more people? Am I playing the game the wrong way because I refuse to play the game? Yeah. Because I'm being stubborn about it and saying, well, fuck them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
About all that?
Yeah.
That's a lot. What's coming up for me as you say that is the profound experience that I've had on two sides of seeing how much Mary Magdalene hated the large crowds around her. Mm-hmm. I've experienced that firsthand from the visions that she gave me, and I've experienced that in my past life regression, being her assistant and kind of watching her closely, but outside of her experience. Mm-hmm. She had no interest in large crowds. They felt suffocating to her because what was important to her was the authenticity of the message. I kind of got this sense from her in both experiences that she would much rather teach and liberate 10 people than have 5,000 people at her feet going, you're amazing, but also fuck you. She just wasn't interested in that experience. And that, I think, is a sign of a person who is truly in alignment with the message they were given to share. Mm-hmm. Yes, we could all build a platform, of 10 million people, and there are ways to do that, and there are ways to optimize your viewers. There's all this stuff that you can do, but at what cost to the actually liberative message that you are supposed to share?
So, with that, that's another interesting point you bring up about toeing the line. Because I understand the suffocation factor that you're referring to there, but I'm also someone who wants to speak in front of thousands of people. Whenever I perform, it's more nerve-wracking for me to perform in front of a group of 2 people or 3
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
You throw more eyes on me, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And again, does that make me a bad person or driven by ego? I don't know. I feel like I'm meant to speak in front of bigger groups. Again, not as a matter of vanity necessarily, because it does scare me, the thought of being that well known, where if I go to a city and 5,000 people are coming and speak to me, well, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that just feels in line with what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
But then that's why I'm also bringing up these questions about, if I present myself as more of an authority, will it help me get there quicker?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I need to get there quicker or get there on the right timetable.
Yeah.
Or timeline, if we're going to go that route. Well, that's not a word I like to throw around that often, but so, I mean, this is genuine inquiry for me, is how do I do it? Because I love the way you're owning it at the same time. There's an admiration that I have for that. And I'm just thinking, am I just being too goddamn stubborn to not just come out and say certain things?
No, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you are. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your spiritual director. So
well, right now you are.
I didn't realize we were here for you today. This is taking a turn. No,
Did you listen to the first episode of the podcast?
I did.
I was very clear about it.
Well, and that's part of why I find your podcast compelling, is because you are so open about your journey. You know, that's part of why I listen, is because for me, again, Enneagram 4 Pisces, you know, like, who just wants authenticity and, you know, transcendence in all things. Like, I am only compelled by people who are authentic in that way, and warts and all. And like, I'm evolving and I'm different now than I was 6 months ago. I mean, I will only listen to those people because those are the only people who I feel like I can truly trust. I'm an authenticity over authority person. And I think the two can coexist, but I mean, authenticity first. And this is opinion. This is, other people might be like, no, screw that. But, you know, some people are destined to sell out stadiums and talk in front of thousands and thousands of people, and, you know, can transmit a really authentic message in that way. Some people are meant to meet 12 people in their whole life and change their entire lives, and, you know, then reach enlightenment and die. Like, that's what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. We have to continuously check in with the things that connect us to source to make sure that we are on whatever version of that correct path looks like for us. And I hear you. I mean, I would much rather teach a yoga class to 25, 30, 40, 60 people than to 3 people. Mm-hmm. It's just more energizing. I just have more to give in a big room. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The reason that I like teaching in front of a larger group is because it's a better experience for the students, not because it's a better experience for me. It is ultimately a better experience for me. I have more fun. I go home more energized. I feel, you know, happier leaving that class. But ultimately, I have to circle back around to what my purpose is in being in that room. You know, is it, I want to talk in front of 5,000 people because, like, that gets me off and I like really like feel really great about myself? Or is it, I want to talk in front of 5,000 people because I think that elevates the message that I get to share with people. And I feel like it elevates the work I get to do, and that more people will be affected more deeply by what I'm able to offer.
I think it could be both.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think you've given me a lot to think about. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't know, you have a way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely have a way, and I appreciate the message that you've shared so much.
Thank you.
Because I wonder if some of Miss Magdalene or Mrs. Magdalene was coming through today. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know.
She's always with me. I mean, I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't even question anymore if it's me or if it's her. It's, you know,
yeah.
I'm just here to share the message.
Well, you know, that's how she rolls.
That's right.
Any final thoughts for everyone?
No, I really enjoyed this. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. And where can everyone find you or reach you?
So, I don't really offer sessions or have a product to sell, but I would love for people to join me in my year of freedom. And I'm documenting that on TikTok. So if you're a TikTok person, you can follow me on hey.its.melissa. Pretty simple. Hey, it's Melissa. And that's where I'm just putting out year of freedom content. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just kind of want you to be along for the ride with me and maybe be inspired to find some more freedom and to believe in your own goodness a little more.
Awesome. I'll put that in the show notes as well. And just thank you for being here. And yeah,
Yeah,
come on again sometime. I
I'd
think you'll
love
have a
that.
lot more stories
Anytime.
or a lot more stories to share.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to. Anytime.
Yay. Fellow time travelers, your journey through time awaits you. Just want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. And if you're interested in discovering who, when, and where you have been throughout time, and you'd like to book a session with me, just go ahead and send me a message on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist, or you can reach me through my website, yourpastliferegressionist.com.
Hey, time traveler. Are you trying to learn your birth chart and you're struggling through all those confusing layers of signs, houses, planets, degrees, aspects? I have a 4-level self-paced course that makes this process so much clearer. Hi, I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. I'm an instructor and mentor for folks like you that are trying to learn all of this trendy new astrological information for themselves and their own lives. Each level of my course is specifically designed to dive deep into the chart and help make sense of all those different parts and pieces. I developed this course to directly improve all the problems that I personally encountered on my journey to learning my own birth chart so that you don't have to. All of the information is presented in a way that is digestible and set up to promote the most effective retention and set you up for real success. By the end of our last level, you'll be ready to practice interpreting the transits and the aspects for yourself. You can visit thatwitchnextdoor.com/astrology for more information and to order yours today. You can also use code time to learn for a 10% discount off of your bundle today. This is my way of saying thank you so much for being part of the Timeless Spirituality community. I enjoy working with all of you so much that listen to me over on That Witch podcast. So don't forget, if you're struggling to learn your birth chart, you want to finally make sense of all of this, visit thatwitchnextdoor.com/astrology and use code time to learn for 10% off at checkout. Thank you so much, time traveler. Thank you, Daniel, the past life regressionist, and I'll see you all in class.